My mother-in-law's laughter echoed through the dining room like it always did, sharp, cruel, and aimed exclusively at me. The crystal chandelier above us seemed to tremble with each cackle, as if even the house itself was tired of Rosalie Perry's venom. "Dramatic and paranoid," Rosalie repeated, savoring each syllable while the others around the mahogany table laughed. Her perfectly manicured nails, blood red like her lipstick, tapped against her wine glass in a rhythm that I'd learned meant she was just getting started. "Andrew, honey, I don't know how you've put up with this for 25 years. The constant accusations, the jealousy, the insecurity." I smiled. Not the tight, forced smile I'd perfected over decades of family dinners. This was different, calm, serene, almost peaceful. It made my husband Andrew Collins frown for a brief moment, his fork pausing halfway to his mouth, before he shook his head and returned to laughing with his mother. Beside him, his dedicated assistant, Kinsley Rogers, with her perfect 31 years, her too-tight burgundy dress that was inappropriate for a family dinner, and her hand that kept finding reasons to touch his arm, also laughed, though her eyes kept darting to me with something like triumph. What they didn't know was that I had spent the last 90 days preparing for this exact moment. In precisely 20 minutes, everyone at this table would see who was really being dramatic. The thought made my smile grow wider. "Madeline is always imagining things," my sister-in-law Patricia chimed in, her voice syrupy sweet with false concern. "Remember when she thought Andrew was having an affair 3 years ago? Poor thing, working so hard to provide for the family and still having to deal with an insecure wife. Some women just can't appreciate what they have." The table erupted in knowing chuckles. My nephew and niece, both in their teens, looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. They'd learned, like everyone in this family, that contradicting the narrative meant becoming the next target. "My name is Madeline Bell. At 55 years old, I've built a successful career as Vice President of Marketing at a Fortune 500 company. Something this family conveniently forgot whenever they painted me as the hysterical housewife. I spent 25 years building what I believed was a solid marriage, raising 2 wonderful children who now lived in other states, pursuing their own dreams, maintaining an impeccable home that had been featured in 3 magazines, and supporting my husband's mediocre real estate career through every failure, every bad investment, every client he lost through sheer incompetence. For 25 years, I was the perfect wife. I organized elaborate dinners for clients he couldn't impress on his own, using my professional connections to save deals he'd bungled. I saved contracts he almost lost through negligence, staying up until 3 a.m. rewriting his proposals because he couldn't string together a coherent sentence. I ignored his mother's constant barbs about my weight. Size 8 was letting myself go in her world. The way he flirted with waitresses and secretaries, the suspicious conferences that always seemed to happen in cities known more for beaches than business. But 90 days ago, everything changed with a simple notification on my phone. One small ping that would unravel a quarter-century of lies. "You're so quiet today, dear," Andrew said, his voice dripping with that particular brand of condescension I'd learned to despise. His green eyes, the ones I'd once found so charming, now reminded me of stagnant pond water. "Aren't you going to share your latest conspiracy theories with us? Tell us who you think I'm sleeping with this week." The table exploded in laughter again, louder this time. Kinsley had the audacity to look at me with exaggerated pity, her pink-glossed lips forming a little moue of fake sympathy. She adjusted the golden necklace around her throat, one I recognized from our joint credit card statement, listed as client gift. "Actually," I said calmly, setting down my fork with deliberate precision, "I do have something to share." "Oh God." Rosalie rolled her eyes so dramatically, I wondered if she might strain something. "Here she goes again. Andrew, darling, you really need to consider therapy for her. This paranoid behavior is embarrassing for the entire family. What will people at the club think?" My husband sighed theatrically, running his hand through his salt and pepper hair in a gesture I once found endearing. Mother's right, Madeline. This paranoid behavior of yours is getting embarrassing. Maybe it's menopause. I've heard it can make women unstable. Embarrassing. Unstable. Menopausal. Those words hung in the air like a toxic cloud, while I calmly unlocked my phone. The familiar weight of it in my hand felt like a weapon, which, in a way, it was. 90 days ago, I was sitting in our quarterly board meeting when I received a notification from our Ring security system. The little chime, barely audible over Brad's droning voice. Motion detected. Front door. 2:23 p.m. Strange, I had thought at the time, my fingers moving discreetly under the conference table. The house should have been empty. Andrew had made a big production at breakfast about his packed day, kissing my cheek with coffee-breath lips while rattling off his schedule. Big client meeting in Westfield, might run late. Don't wait up, sweetheart. Our cleaner, Maria, came on Wednesdays, not Thursdays. The gardeners worked Tuesday mornings. Out of pure curiosity, not paranoia, despite what everyone at this table thought, I opened the app to check. Maybe it was a delivery I'd forgotten about, or perhaps Maria had switched her schedule. And that's when my perfect, carefully constructed world began to crumble like a house of cards in a hurricane. The memory of that Thursday afternoon was seared into my brain like a brand. I can still smell the conference room, stale coffee, Brad's excessive cologne, the artificial lemon scent from the cleaning products. I was sitting in my usual spot, third chair from the head of the table, pretending to pay attention to revenue projections while discreetly checking what I assumed would be a false alarm. The Ring app opened slowly, the loading circle spinning endlessly, thanks to the building's spotty Wi-Fi. When the live feed finally loaded, I had to blink twice to process what I was seeing. There was Andrew, my husband of 25 years, walking through our front door at 2:23 p.m. His navy suit, the one I'd bought him for his birthday, was slightly rumpled. Nothing unusual there, except for the fact that he had explicitly told me during our morning coffee that he would be in Westfield all day with the Henderson clients. Multi-million-dollar listing, babe. This could be the one that finally puts us over the top. But it wasn't the lie about his location that made my blood turn to ice water in my veins. It wasn't even the casual way he tossed his keys on the entry table, the antique I'd inherited from my grandmother. It was Kinsley Rogers entering right behind him, her slender hand intertwined with his, like they were teenagers at prom. I watched, my heart hammering so hard I was certain everyone in the conference room must hear it, as my husband of 25 years pulled his 31-year-old assistant into a passionate kiss right in the foyer of our home. Not a quick peck, not a momentary lapse in judgment. This was familiar, practiced, comfortable. The home where we had raised our children, where Emma had taken her first steps on that very floor, where Jack had practiced his violin for hours. The home where we hosted 25 Christmases, countless Thanksgiving dinners that I spent days preparing, birthday parties where I'd stayed up until dawn, decorating to make them perfect. Madeline, your thoughts on the Q3 marketing strategy? Brad's nasal voice cut through my shock like a rusty knife. I looked up, finding 12 pairs of eyes staring at me expectantly. My throat felt like sandpaper, but somehow I managed to force out a professional smile, the same one I'd use later at family dinners, while my world imploded. I think we need to focus on digital engagement metrics, I heard myself saying, the words coming from some autopilot part of my brain, while the rest screamed silently. The traditional channels are showing diminishing returns. I must have sounded convincing, because Brad nodded approvingly and moved on to torment someone else with his PowerPoints. The meeting dragged on for 2 more excruciating hours. 2 hours where I maintained the perfect facade of the composed executive while my phone burned like a live coal in my lap. I contributed when called upon, took notes I'd never read, smiled at Janet's tired jokes, all while my marriage revealed itself as a sham in real time. When the meeting finally, mercifully ended, I walked calmly to my corner office, the one I'd earned through decades of 70-hour weeks, locked the door, and collapsed into my chair. With trembling fingers, I opened the Ring app again and watched the full recording. The system had captured everything in crystal-clear 4K resolution, every devastating detail preserved in high definition. Their casual familiarity as they moved through my home was a knife between my ribs. The way Kinsley kicked off her heels at the door without hesitation, like she'd done it 100 times before. How she knew exactly where we kept the wine glasses, the Waterford crystal we'd received as wedding gifts. The comfortable way they moved together, bodies in sync, suggested this was far from their first time. They spent 3 hours in my home that day, 3 hours that the camera documented in excruciating detail. I fast-forwarded through most of it. I had evidence enough without torturing myself with every moment. But certain images burned themselves into my retinas. Them using my grandmother's quilt as a picnic blanket, drinking the champagne I'd been saving for our anniversary, her wearing my silk robe, the one Andrew had given me last Christmas. At 5:47 p.m., they finally left, Kinsley stretching like a satisfied cat, while Andrew checked his phone. I watched him text someone. Me, I realized, when my phone buzzed moments later. Heading home now, baby. Clients were exhausting, but I think we got the listing. Don't hold dinner. I'll grab something on the way. The casualness of the lie made bile rise in my throat. How many times had I received similar texts? How many client meetings were afternoons in our bed? How many exhausting negotiations were hours with her? But here's the thing about being underestimated your entire life. People never expect you to be strategic. They see the quiet woman who smooths over conflicts, who makes everyone comfortable, who keeps the peace, and they mistake kindness for weakness. They never consider that the same woman who built a career in strategic marketing might apply those skills to her personal life. I didn't confront Andrew that night. I didn't cry, scream, or throw his Italian leather shoes onto the lawn like some cliché movie scene. Instead, I drove home at my usual time, stopping to pick up his favorite Thai food on the way. I kissed him hello when he walked in at 8 p.m., smelling of lies and her perfume, listened to his elaborate fiction about the Henderson clients and their unreasonable demands, and served the dinner I'd thoughtfully picked up because I was too tired to cook. "You look worn out, honey," he said, pouring himself a generous scotch from the decanter I kept filled. "Rough day at the office?" "The usual," I replied, studying his face for any sign of guilt and finding none. "Brad's being Brad." He laughed, the sound grating against my raw nerves. "That man's a walking heart attack. You work too hard, Maddie. You should think about retiring early. Enjoy life a little." Retire. Give up my career, my independence, my income. Had he been planning this all along? That night, I lay beside him in our California king bed, listening to his snoring. He always slept deeply after his exhausting days, and planned my next moves. By morning, I had a strategy as detailed as any marketing campaign I'd ever run. The next morning, Friday, I executed phase 1 of my plan. After Andrew left for his early tea time, which I now suspected was code for something else entirely, I made 2 crucial phone calls from my home office. The door locked, even though I was alone. First, Genevieve Coleman. I'd met her at a Women in Business luncheon 5 years ago, where she'd given a presentation on protecting assets that had seemed purely academic at the time. She was known as the best divorce attorney in the state, the one celebrities flew in from LA to retain. Her voice was warm but professional when she answered on the second ring. "Madeline Bell." I need a consultation as soon as possible, and I need absolute discretion. I have an opening this afternoon at 2 p.m., my office. Perfect. The second call was to Secure Home Systems, a high-end private security company that specialized in discrete installations. I need additional cameras installed throughout my home, I told them. Completely hidden. I want coverage of the home office, living room, master bedroom, and kitchen. May I ask the purpose, Mrs. Collins? The technician inquired politely. Home security, I said simply. My husband and I travel frequently. You can never be too careful these days. Of course. We can have someone out tomorrow morning. Will anyone else be home? My husband has a golf tournament all weekend. Within a week, I had transformed our home into a surveillance state that would make the NSA proud. Tiny cameras hidden in smoke detectors, air vents, and decorative objects captured every angle of every room. The beauty of handling all our household accounts for 25 years. Andrew never looked at credit card statements, never questioned new charges. His financial obliviousness, which I'd compensated for throughout our marriage by managing every bill, every investment, every tax return, was now my greatest asset. Over the following weeks, I became a detective in my own life, and what I discovered was a masterclass in deception. Credit card statements revealed a pattern so clear, I wondered how I'd missed it. Wednesday, client lunches at the Ritz-Carlton that cost $400 for 2 people. Thursday, property viewings that mysteriously coincided with my standing executive meetings. Weekend golf trips, where charges showed up at romantic restaurants in towns nowhere near any golf course. But it was what I found in his home office that transformed my hurt into cold, calculated fury. Andrew had always been paranoid about his office, keeping it locked even when he wasn't home. But he'd forgotten that I had installed the new smart lock system last year, and I had the master code. Hidden in a folder labeled Tax Documents 2019, because Andrew knew I handled all our current taxes and would never look at old files, were printed emails between him and Kinsley dating back 6 months. I photographed each one, my hands steady, despite the rage building in my chest. Can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. One from Kinsley read, being with you in public as your girlfriend instead of your assistant will be everything. Just a little longer, baby. Once I figure out how to hide the assets, we'll be free. Madeline will be too shocked to fight back, Andrew had replied. Hide the assets. From the woman who had built those assets, who had turned his fumbling career into something respectable through connections and introductions, who had invested wisely while he spent frivolously on golf clubs and boats we never used. The emails got worse. Discussions of making me look unstable in court, plans to have his mother testify about my paranoid delusions, strategies for hiding money in offshore accounts, strategies that were laughably amateur to anyone who actually understood finance. There was even a draft timeline. File for divorce in January. Claim emotional abuse and instability. Push for a quick settlement while I was too emotional to think clearly. Marry Kinsley by summer. They had planned my humiliation down to the month, but they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed I was who they thought I was. The emotional, reactive woman who would crumble when faced with betrayal. They never considered that I might be exactly who I'd always been, a strategic thinker who had built a career on understanding human behavior and predicting outcomes. My hidden cameras captured everything over the following weeks. Tuesday afternoons, when I was supposedly at yoga, I'd started going to the gym near my office instead, needing the punching bag more than meditation. Thursday, lunches that lasted 3 hours, one memorable Friday, when they'd had the audacity to use our hot tub. the one we'd installed for Jack's physical therapy after his sports injury. The surveillance footage was a goldmine of evidence, but also a study in arrogance. They spoke freely, assuming they were safe in their space. I documented conversations about their future, their plans for my house. Kinsley wanted to redecorate everything, calling my taste suburban soccer mom. Their mockery of my marriage. "She's so pathetic," Kinsley said one afternoon, lounging on my couch in my robe, again. 25 years and she still thinks you love her. It's actually sad. "The saddest part," Andrew replied, refilling their wine glasses with the Chateau Neuf du Pape I'd been saving, "is that she thinks she's so smart with her little marketing job. She has no idea what's coming." I saved that clip in 3 different locations, but my investigation revealed more than just the affair. As I dug deeper into our finances, something I'd foolishly left primarily to Andrew in recent years, as my career demanded more time, I discovered a web of deceit that went far beyond infidelity. Unauthorized loans against our house. Credit cards I didn't know existed maxed out with charges at jewelry stores. Not for me. Luxury hotels and high-end restaurants. Investment accounts that were mysteriously lighter than they should be. And then there was his business. Andrew's real estate company, which I'd helped fund with my bonus money years ago, was a shell game of fraudulent listings, inflated prices, and skimmed commissions. He'd been stealing from clients for years, small amounts he thought no one would notice, funneling the money into accounts he thought I didn't know about. I documented everything, every transaction, every forged signature, every illegal transfer. What had started as evidence for a divorce had become evidence for something much bigger. Back in the present, in our dining room with the family that had tormented me for decades, I connected my phone to the 75-inch smart TV with the satisfaction of a general deploying troops. The screen flickered to life, and I savored the last moment of their ignorant bliss. "What is this nonsense?" Andrew started to stand, his face already reddening with anger. "Madeline, if this is another one of your—" "Sit down, honey," I said, my voice sweet as arsenic. "You'll want to see this. Everyone will." The first video began to play, the timestamp clearly visible. Thursday, 90 days ago, 2:23 p.m. The Ring camera had captured everything in perfect detail. Andrew entering our home with Kinsley, the passionate kiss in the foyer, their hands exploring each other with familiar ease. The room went silent except for the sound from the TV. I watched their faces change. Andrew's from anger to shock to pale terror. Kinsley's from smug satisfaction to dawning horror. Rosalie's from righteous indignation to slack-jawed disbelief. This is... Andrew's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Dramatic?" I suggested helpfully, taking a sip of my wine. "Paranoid, perhaps. Delusional?" Kinsley had pushed her chair back so hard it screeched against the hardwood floor. "I should go—" "Oh no, dear," I said, my voice still maintaining that deadly sweetness. "The show's just starting. You're one of the stars after all. Wouldn't want you to miss your best scenes." The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the sounds from the video. Their laughter, their casual discussion of their deception, the pop of a champagne cork. Rosalie's mouth hung open, her perfect lipstick smeared from where she'd bitten her lip. My sister-in-law Patricia looked between the screen and Andrew like she was watching a tennis match. Even the teenagers had put down their phones, their eyes wide with the realization that Aunt Madeline wasn't so crazy after all. "Madeline," Andrew tried again, his voice strangled. "This isn't what it looks like. We were just—" I laughed. the sound sharp and bitter. Just what, Andrew? Just destroying our marriage? Just planning to steal everything I've worked for? Just making a fool of me for 6 months, while everyone at this table called me paranoid? The video continued relentlessly. Them walking, hand in hand to our living room, sitting on the couch we'd bought for our 20th anniversary, the one where our children had opened Christmas presents for 2 decades. Her head on his shoulder, his fingers in her hair, the casual intimacy of established lovers. "Turn it off!" Rosalie suddenly found her voice, shrill and desperate. "This is inappropriate. There are children present." "Inappropriate?" I echoed, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You know what's inappropriate, Rosalie? Your son bringing his mistress into the home I've maintained for 25 years. Your son planning to steal from the woman who saved his failing business 3 times. Your son teaching his children that marriage vows are meaningless. But please, let's talk about my paranoia instead." I clicked to the next video with deliberate calm. Different day, same time slot. My Thursday meeting schedule had been very convenient for them. This one showed them in the kitchen, Kinsley wearing nothing but Andrew's dress shirt, making breakfast using my cookware, my ingredients, in my kitchen, where I'd prepared thousands of meals for this ungrateful family. "How long have you known?" Andrew's voice was barely audible. All his usual bluster evaporated. "Does it matter?" I took another sip of wine, noting how my hand didn't shake. What matters is what I did with that knowledge. You see, when I discovered your affair, I had choices. I could have confronted you immediately, had a big dramatic scene. Tears, shouting, maybe some thrown dishes. That's what you expected, isn't it? Emotional, irrational Madeline, making a scene. My phone buzzed with a text from Genevieve. "Documents filed this morning. Accounts frozen as discussed. Restraining order signed." Perfect timing. I'd choreographed this down to the minute. I clicked to the next slide. Credit card statements blown up for everyone to see. Instead, I decided to be thorough. Wednesday lunches at the Ritz-Carlton, always room 412. How romantic, though charging it to the business account. I turned to look at Andrew directly. "That's tax fraud, honey." Kinsley made a strangled sound. "You said the company paid for client entertainment." "Oh, sweetie," I turned to her with mock sympathy that didn't reach my eyes. "You believed him? Tell me, what else did he promise you? That you were special? That you were different from the others?" "Others?" Kinsley's voice went up an octave. The next video was from my hidden camera in the home office. The quality even better than the Ring footage. Andrew at his desk, Kinsley on his lap like a cliché from a bad movie, both looking at his computer screen. "See this portfolio?" Andrew's recorded voice filled the room. $500,000 in investments she doesn't even know about. Once I transfer it all offshore, she'll get nothing in the divorce. I've done this before. My first wife never knew what hit her. I paused the video for effect. Surprise. I've known about every account since the day you opened them. Benefits of actually reading the statements that come to our house. Also, first wife? Andrew, you told me Cheryl left with half of everything. Lying about your past marriages, too. "This is illegal," Andrew burst out, standing so quickly his chair fell backward. "You can't record someone without their consent. I'll sue you for invasion of privacy." "Actually," I smiled, pulling up the legal statute on my phone. "In our state, you can record in your own home for security purposes." Genevieve made sure I understood the law perfectly. Speaking of which, I swiped to the next document. Screenshots of emails I'd found in his hidden folder. These are particularly interesting. Kinsley, did you know you weren't his first assistant to receive the special treatment? Miranda from 2018, Jessica from 2020, Sarah from last year. Quite a pattern over the decades. Kinsley's face went through a rainbow of colors, white, red, green. You said I was different. You said you'd never felt this way before. You are different, I assured her with false kindness. You lasted 6 whole months. That's a record. Though I'm curious, did he tell you about the prenup? The ironclad one his mother insisted on? What prenup? Andrew and Rosalie said simultaneously, their voices creating a discordant harmony of panic. Oh, didn't you read what you signed at our wedding, Andrew? Page 47, subsection C, the infidelity clause. In case of proven adultery, the cheating spouse forfeits all claims to marital assets acquired during the marriage. Your mother was so worried I'd cheat on you, she insisted on it. Ironic, isn't it, Rosalie? I'd never seen Rosalie speechless for this long. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, no sound emerging. The presentation continued relentlessly. More videos, more evidence, each piece carefully chosen for maximum impact. The afternoon they'd discuss their future plans in my bedroom, on sheets I'd bought, under the wedding portrait that still hung on the wall. The time they'd used my mother's china for their intimate lunch, the china I'd inherited when she died, that I only brought out for special occasions. The day they'd laughed about how clueless I was while drinking wine from our anniversary collection. But my personal favorite, I said, clicking to the next video with the timing of a seasoned performer, is this one. The screen showed Andrew and Kinsley in the home office again, dated just last week. The camera caught them perfectly, their guards completely down in what they thought was their private sanctuary. I can't wait until that pathetic woman is out of our lives, Kinsley's recorded voice said, her tone dripping with contempt. Though I'll miss this house, it's the only thing she has good taste in. Don't worry, baby. We'll get the house. I'll make sure she looks crazy in court. My mother will testify about her paranoid behavior, her delusions. I've been documenting her episodes for months. By the time I'm done, she'll be lucky to get the car. And if she fights back? She won't. Madeline's all bark, no bite. 25 years, and she's never stood up to me once. She'll fold like she always does. I paused the video and looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes in turn. Pathetic woman, that's what you called me. The woman who saved your business 3 times, who raised your children while you played golf and played house with your assistants, who turned your joke of a career into something respectable through my connections, my reputation, my hard work. Madeline, please. Andrew was sweating now, large patches spreading under his arms, his face the color of spoiled milk. We can work this out. Counseling. Counseling, I laughed, the sound echoing off the dining room walls. Oh, honey, we're way past counseling. Let me show you exactly where we are. I pulled up my phone and showed him the banking app, holding it so everyone could see. Notice anything interesting about our joint accounts? His face went from pale to green as he processed what he was seeing. They're frozen? You can't do this. As of 9 a.m. this morning, completely legal by the way, Genevieve filed the paperwork yesterday. Your business accounts too, since I'm technically co-owner. You did insist on that for tax purposes, remember? So convenient now. This is financial abuse. He stood up, knocking over his wine glass. The red wine spread across his mother's white tablecloth like blood at a crime scene. Financial abuse. I pulled up another document. Let's talk about financial abuse, shall we? Like the secret loans you took out against our house. The credit cards in my name I never authorized. The money you've been stealing from your clients for years. The room went even quieter, if that was possible. Kinsley's eyes widened as she began to understand the depth of what she'd gotten herself into. Oh yes, I continued conversationally. I found everything. Every fraudulent transaction, every skimmed commission, every inflated property value. 20 years of financial crimes, all documented, all with your signature. The FBI received a very comprehensive package yesterday. You're lying, Andrew said, but his voice shook. You wouldn't I? I pulled up the email confirmation from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. They were very interested in the pattern of fraud. Agent Martinez said it was one of the most detailed civilian reports he'd ever seen. Apparently, I have a talent for forensic accounting. Who knew? Kinsley stood abruptly, her chair clattering to the floor. I need to leave. Now. Of course you do, I said pleasantly. But before you go, you should know that Genevieve also contacted your employer today. Turns out, using company resources to facilitate an affair with a married man, company phones, company email, company time, is grounds for immediate termination. You might want to check your email. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands, her face crumpling as she read. No, this can't be happening. You vindictive bitch. Rosalie finally found her voice again, rising from her chair like an avenging angel in St. John's. Careful, Rosalie, I warned, my voice steel-wrapped in silk. Everything's being recorded. Oh, did I mention? I've been recording every family dinner for the past 2 months. Your comments about my weight, my parenting, my career. My lawyer particularly enjoyed the one where you called me a gold-digging whore who trapped your precious son. The room erupted into chaos. Andrew lunging for my phone, Kinsley sobbing hysterically, Rosalie shrieking about lawsuits and defamation, Patricia trying to hustle her teenagers out while they filmed everything on their phones. But I remained calm in the eye of the storm I'd created, standing with the poise I'd perfected in countless boardrooms. There's one more thing, I said quietly, and somehow that cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone froze. Andrew, halfway across the table, stopped mid-lunge. The house, I said simply. You need to be out by tomorrow. The restraining order goes into effect at 9 a.m. Restraining order. Andrew laughed desperately. On what grounds? I clicked to one final video, dated 2 weeks ago. Andrew, drunk on scotch, talking to Kinsley on speakerphone in his office. I'd been in the next room, my recorder capturing every word. Sometimes I just want to shut her up permanently, his slurred voice said. Make it look like an accident. I've thought about it. The stairs, maybe, or her pills. The room went silent, except for Kinsley's sharp gasp. You talked about killing me, I said conversationally. My attorney and the judge found that very concerning. So did the FBI, actually. I gathered my phone and purse with unhurried movements. I'll be at the Ritz-Carlton if anyone needs me. The presidential suite. I've been staying there all week. Charged to Andrew's secret credit card, of course, the one he thought I didn't know about. I looked around the room one last time, memorizing their faces. Andrew, destroyed. Kinsley, realizing she'd tied herself to a sinking ship. Rosalie, silent for once in her miserable life. The family that had made me feel small for 25 years, finally seeing who I really was. You called me dramatic, I said, heading for the door. For 25 years, you diminished me, belittled me, made me question my own sanity. Well, now you've seen what this dramatic woman is capable of when she's had enough. I paused at the doorway, looking back one final time. Oh, Andrew. That golf buddy of yours, Judge Morrison? His wife and I have become quite close at the country club. Funny what people share over wine. We'll be getting Judge Chen instead. She's known for being unsympathetic to cheating spouses who threaten their wives. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my San Francisco office, CEO of my own marketing firm. The divorce had been swift. Andrew lost everything. The FBI investigation was ongoing, but his real estate license was gone forever. Kinsley had fled home to Ohio. Rosalie had been quietly expelled from the country club. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter. Saw the news about Dad. You okay? Better than okay, I typed back. I'm free. Being called dramatic had been the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop accepting less than I deserved. Now, at 55, I was finally living life on my terms. No drama needed, just truth, consequences, and the sweet satisfaction of justice served cold.